This session is on the basic core of goodness. And to start out this session, I'd like to take the time to read what Father Thomas Keating has written about the basic core of goodness. And just take it in. Allow it to wash over you. Hear it, not only with the ears of your head, but with the ears of your heart. And feel it as it permeates your being. The fundamental goodness of human nature, like the Trinity, grace, and the Incarnation, is an essential element of the Christian faith. Our basic core of goodness is our true self. Its center of gravity is God. The acceptance of our basic core of goodness is a quantum leap in the spiritual journey. This basic core of goodness is capable of unlimited development, indeed, of becoming transformed in Christ. It's a very powerful statement, and yet it's a contemporary form of we are created in God's image, which we read in the Hebrew Scriptures. We are created in God's image. God created them, man and woman. God created them in his own image and likeness. And we go into the Christian Scriptures and we hear it again in 1 Timothy. Everything God created is good. So why don't we hear much about this? You may ask yourself, why not? It's an element, the basic element of our Christian lives. Centering prayer has involvement in uncovering or helping us uncover the basic core of goodness. There's a dynamic that takes place in letting go of thoughts. We're letting go of the obstacles that prevent us from allowing the energy, the flow of the Spirit to flow through us and preventing that energy. So thoughts are in the way of really allowing that basic core of goodness to flow in the form of grace. So when we let, as Thomas said, when we let go of our thoughts, we open ourselves and we realize we aren't separated from God because the Spirit of God lives and dwells within us. So I'd like to just take another look at this chart, and we'll talk a little bit about the dynamic of centering prayer and how it really, over time, allows that basic goodness to flow through us. It's a very simple process, and it happens one moment at a time, as Thomas explained it. But I'd like to do it in a way just to let us remember how we start our centering prayer practice. We start by introducing the sacred word. So here we are, by introducing the sacred word. And then we move to a relative rest. And even if we just think about it in those terms, that we just come apart and sit down and we rest. We sit and rest. Think about your everyday life. When you come home from the office or you're busy and you walk in the door and you think, oh, I'd just like to sit down and rest. And yet we take ourselves and we sit down, and what happens? We jump up. Or we turn on the TV, or we put on some music, or we remember we have to make a phone call. So we really don't take the time to rest. So if all we do in centering prayer is take that 20 minutes twice a day to come apart and sit down and actually rest, that rest relativizes within us, and it moves from the physical, the most gross part of ourselves, to the inner. Remember when I talked about the layers of consent? Yes, yes, yes. So we consent to allow ourselves to rest in that sitting for 20 minutes. And at first it's uncomfortable because we don't allow ourselves to rest. So that first moment is a rest. In our very first experience of centering prayer, there's rest. Our physical being is resting. And in this resting, we sort of set off a dynamic interiorly, which we may not be aware of at all. But the things that start to happen while we're resting in the quiet come up in the form of thoughts. And we call that the unloading, or we call that the purification process. So these thoughts that are coming up are purifying out. Now, why are they doing that? Basically, to create a receptivity of silence or stillness within us. So making a space for that healing to take place. So while we're doing this simple resting, we're opening to the relationship and we're opening to the healing process. The healing comes up in the form of thoughts. Remember what thoughts are? Thoughts are integral, inevitable, and a normal part of centering prayer. So we expect to have thoughts. They're not going to go away. And it really facilitates the dynamic to return to the sacred word. So we can let go of our thoughts and return to the sacred word. And what we return to here is consent. We consent to what? God's presence and action within. And here it is. God's presence and action at the center of our being. We all have it. It's there. It's already there. And all the goodness of God is already within us. We don't have to do anything to earn it. It's there. And that's what the basic core of goodness is. As we get ourselves and our thoughts out of the way, the space is created and the obstacles that prevent the free flow of grace are removed. So these obstacles go away. They go away by us returning to our sacred word and not giving too much energy to the thoughts that are inside of us. They come up and they go out because we return to the sacred word and we allow that continuous flow of thoughts to just be there, and we don't interfere with it. We don't try to control it. We don't try to manipulate it. We don't try to do anything with it. We just allow it. And when we get engaged with it, we return to the sacred word. And we say yes again. Each yes sends us around this whole circular movement again and again and again. So all of this at a certain period of time is completely purified. And it's the purity of heart that we move into, that openness of heart in the relationship. Because in the inner room, we're learning how to be in a relationship of love, what it means. Because the obstacles that prevent us from being or knowing about our basic core of goodness, or the obstacles that prevent us from being in touch with the Spirit, or keep us separated from the Spirit of God that dwells within us, are the same obstacles that prevent us from being in relationship with one another. What are they? Fear, anger, thoughts. When you're sitting and you're in relationship with someone, and you're preoccupied with your thoughts, you're not present to them. And whether you know it or not, or whether they know it or not, they, on some level, realize there's no connection. There's no connection. So each one of these obstacles are preventing us from being in touch with the presence of God that dwells within us, or allowing the grace to flow through us, and preventing us from being in relationship with ourselves and with others. So this letting go of thoughts that happens in the centering prayer doesn't just stay in centering prayer. It's a dynamic that we sort of set off in centering prayer, but we learned it becomes a way of life in some ways. Just letting go of our thoughts and making space or room for relationship to grow, both with God, of ourselves, and others. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic that carries off into our daily life. God is so amazing in this relationship in the inner room that as we open and we stand there naked before God, God kind of sweeps us up and just embraces us where we're at and supports us in the healing process. So it's really wonderful. God loves us because we love God, and God loved us first. So we don't have to think about what love is, and that's the real meaning of the Christian message. We read and we hear that, the Christian message is to love one another as I have loved you. How do you learn how to love one another as I have loved you? By allowing this is where the love comes from. Father Thomas talks about the theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity. These virtues are already implanted in our heart, and as we open, they just spontaneously appear. We don't have to do anything to gain them. They just are right there. So the love flows. It's there. So when you turn to someone, the love is there. You don't have to conjure it up or try to make it flow. It's there. Unfortunately, what we don't realize is that a lot of times we're frightened about allowing that kind of love to flow. We're a little leery about it. We judge it. We think about it. You may feel a spontaneous movement of love in your heart toward another person, and yet you say, oh, I better not express it. Or I better not let them know that I love them. What would they think? Maybe they won't love me back. Well, it's really not about, it's loving without expectation of return. It's just loving, because loving is what we are and what we're made of. That's the energy of life. That's what we were created for, to allow that love to flow through us. And in that flow through, the love not only flows through us, but it begins to flow through the universe, through the world. So how do we become the conduit for love in the world, peace in the world, transformation of heart? Because we allow God to convert our hearts. We allow the transformation to happen to us, both through the purification process, which sometimes is not easy to see in ourselves. We see those obstacles, and they're not a pretty sight. But when we let God heal them, and we know that within that context of that inner room, God isn't judging that. God is receiving us with unconditional love. And as we receive this unconditional love of God, we're able to give the unconditional love of God, that love that doesn't have expectations of return. It doesn't need to hear back, I love you, in order to be prompted to say I love you or to care. And actually, it's not even necessary to articulate it with your mouth, but to allow yourself to be a presence of love in the world, to just be there and to allow that love to flow through us is, I believe, one of our main functions. We all feel kind of helpless and somewhat hopeless in the face of some of the things that go on in daily life. When we listen to the news, we think, oh, things are really not in good shape. Wars are happening, disasters are happening, people are starving, all sorts of things are going on, and you feel, what can I do? Poor little old me. What can I do? What you can do is you can take yourself to silence and allow God to heal you with the confidence that if God can heal you, God can heal the entire human family, because we are one. We are one. Every human being is related to every other human being. So if you allow the love to flow through you and to another human being, then that love is contagious. That's the good thing about love. It's kind of like a virus, but it's one of these real positive viruses. It's contagious. Just try this. I really did this with my daughter, who lives in New York City. And I had taken a little course of loving kindness with Sharon Salzberg. I don't know, you may know her, but she's a very sweet woman. And she was talking about loving kindness, and we were talking about maybe walking through New York and offering loving kindness to people as we walk through the streets of New York. Now, as you offer this loving kindness, you just feel it. Feel it inside and bless everyone that you pass and offer your love. And maybe smile and continue to go on. Well, my daughter's pretty high energy type of person, and she's very busy, and she's not inclined to be smiling in her neighborhood at all the people she passes. So I said to her, well, maybe you would be personally more joyful if you would smile at everyone as you pass them in the street. She says, Mom, they're going to lock me up. They'll think I'm crazy. I said, well, that doesn't matter. Try it as an experiment. So she did it. And she was amazed at how many people smiled back, how many people said good morning, and how many people were eager to connect. Because most people, and maybe you can test this out sometime when you visit New York, oftentimes people sort of walk with their eyes not toward one another, but sort of where they're going, directing their path, but not really engaging with what's going on around them, because it moves so quickly. But if you take the time to engage people, they're hungry to engage with you. And that's the loving energy I'm talking about. So it doesn't have to be a romantic experience or a threatening one, but just to allow that love to flow. And I think we've been conditioned in some ways to believe that love is limited, that you can only love one person, or maybe two, or maybe three. I remember when my first grandson was born, I didn't realize I had that much love in my heart. I was amazed at the love. Well, then when my daughter-in-law and my son told me they were expecting another baby, I thought, how am I going to love him? I love this kid so much. How am I going to love this other one? I don't know if my heart could expand that much. But it was just more love. So I think what we do, these obstacles that I mentioned and Father Thomas mentions, they stand in the way of that. And we keep the lid on it and we press it down. So this is a process of awakening this centering prayer. We awaken those energies within us of loving energy, of connecting, of being part of the human family, of allowing that peace and love and energy to flow. And the more we use it, the more we get. Because I can love both of those kids with this enormous energy. And they know it. And they feel it by their response to me. I can see it. They run and greet me. They want me to go to everything that they have in school and those kinds of things because they want you there. And they can't say, oh, hi, Nanny, it's because I love you, I want you to be here. But they want you to be a part of everything they're doing. Can you come to my game? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can we make cookies? They're always wanting to engage because they feel that. And they know that. Well, the love of God is enormous. If God loved each of us into life and continues to do that through the procreation process, which is a loving one, a loving connection, that human beings can love one another into creating another human being is an amazing miracle that God gave us the power to do that and shows us by that miracle how much love there really is. So it isn't limited. This core of goodness is connected right to the Spirit of God, and that God has more energy. God doesn't know what to do with all the energy God has, I'm sure. So each of us become a little spark of light on the planet. And as we connect with one another, we enlighten one another. We sparkle together. You know, I think sometimes of the tree lights. You know, at this time of the year, you see a lot of Christmas tree lights being, put out because it's a season of light. So every time you see all these little twinkling lights, every human face is a twinkling light on the entire planet. And they all are the body of Christ, the body of God, the energy of love, because they come from love. That is our source. We just have to think of that as what it's an entitlement. It is who we are. We're made of love. So to give it away only allows it to enrich and grow. And as we allow the Spirit in the centering prayer practice to remove those obstacles, remove the fears, remove the thoughts that say we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we don't have enough love, we don't have enough willingness, we don't have peace. That's what interferes with our willingness to allow it to flow, because we're afraid. I think if we ever really allowed the love of God to flow through us, we would probably have boundless and endless energy. We'd be popping around all the time, because there's so much of it available to us. So what we want to do as Christian contemplatives on this planet is to offer the love of God to everyone and to just allow it and be conduits for that. Allow that true self to grow and sparkle spill off into our neighbors, into one another, into all of humanity. That's the contribution we can make. We can make the contribution of allowing God to transform us, to allow us to be in our true self, to be present to that energy of love that flows through us, and to bring it to the planet. God has no other arms or hands or hearts to offer the love but us. We're all extensions of that love. So as we give this away, it'll be contagious and will infect the whole planet with the love of God. So in this simple, tiny little prayer practice, 4 guidelines, by letting go of thoughts and not engaging in our thoughts, which only reinforces the false self, because whatever the thoughts are coming during the centering prayer are almost always about you and me. What I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do, what happened to me, what happened to here. All of those things are what we're thinking about. So we get so preoccupied in ourselves that we can't allow the freedom to open our hearts and to allow that love to be there. It's about forgetting self, forgetting selfishness, and allowing God to take care of all of that, and giving that. We give those thoughts to God. That's our gift in return for the love. We give God our faults, we give God our thoughts, and God gives us love in return that we can then channel through ourselves and pass on to everyone we come in contact with in the silence of our hearts, by keeping our heart open and allowing it to just flow from God through us to others.